All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. And we're back with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. And as always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett. Andy, what's going on, man?
Woo! Wind blown. I think
Low rowdy.
it was a little rowdy. Unfortunately, I got out there for a couple hours this morning to try and find some new fish and found a couple new cool boulders, and then the wind decided to pick up and the largemouth bite was crap. So here we are. I did take a nap in the boat today. That was kind of fun, but
Hey, anytime you need a nap in your boat, you call me.
You got it.
Be glad to take the trolling motor off your hands.
That was hilarious. I'm like, I think I'm gonna sit down and take a nap now.
I will say, here's some. I'm gonna leave it a little treat for the.
Did you take a picture?
Oh, I totally got a picture. So for folks that are on YouTube, you are getting a treat. You're getting an exclusive here.
This is great. I had a feeling you took a picture of me, but I was literally leaning on the gun wall as I laid back and
Oh, this is even better.
Yeah. Spent, dude.
Even better.
So
That'll make for I'm gonna save that for the right time on social media coming up.
drool just dribbling down my face.
Yeah. But I will say, I'll be nice about it because you were awesome and took a couple hours to take. My brother flew in from Utah, so he took us out fishing. I don't think he's caught a bass in probably 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. The only fish he's been catching when he goes sees my parents down in Florida, which understandably he goes out and tarpon fishes my dad, and he kind of gets his fix there. So I don't blame him much, but the dude's been slacking. So that was like his first smallmouth probably since he was in high school, which is like 5 years ago.
He caught him a second or third cast. We went out there and I was like, yeah, she's a little rough, and they're like 2.5 to 4 footers, and I was like, all right, we're gonna catch 2 and leave, and we hooked 3, and then we went grabbed a bite to eat, and
yeah,
then I took a nap in the boat, which was fantastic.
we were driving over, and he's like, "You think the bite's hard right now?" And I'm like, no, as long as the wind's okay, you're gonna be on him right away. I mean, he lives on these fish. Yeah. We'll be just fine. We'll go catch him.
And I've got a couple. And I wish the wind wasn't blowing 25 miles an hour when they were calling for 5 to 10. But that's the way it goes in the summertime.
Dude, it was so funny, his face, though. With those waves, he's sitting there oh, my God. Hasn't seen Great Lakes waves before or been on the water anyway.
I was like, you'll be fine.
You're just sitting there it's no big deal. And, it was funny just watching his face. I was a little nervous there. If Andy took us out there, we're fine. I was telling him on the way home, whenever I fish, in the fall, when it gets really rowdy and I'm with Andy or Jeff, if they're good, I'm good. If they're nervous, I'm probably shitting myself.
Yeah. And the whole thing is being not so much comfortable with it, but respecting your limits and what the lake can actually do. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, the only way to get comfortable with it is to actually go out there and deal with it. And it sucks.
You break stuff.
Everything in your boat breaks. Your body breaks. It hurts to stand. It hurts to walk. After June, I was ready to take a break from guiding, and I think I took 3 weeks off, which was absolutely glorious. And now we're about to get back into the heavy guide swing here, and I'm praying the wind doesn't blow because I'm tired of getting beat up. It's only blown for the last 2 weeks. The entire week when we won the Douglas Derby, it literally blew every day in practice, and there was 2 to 5 footers on the lake. And then on the tournament, the one day it was supposed to be calm, it blows 25 out of the west during the tournament. And I'm just I can't do this anymore. My body still hurts from that tournament. My boat was a lake. My boat had a lake in it on a lake. It was to put it softly. It was smallmouth fishing 101 in the summer.
Well, our guest today, thankfully, doesn't have to live in conditions like that, but isn't afraid of them by any means. He's as a newly Bass Pro Tour qualifier, Mr. Keith Carson, who we're going to get on here in a second. But one last jab at my brother, because I don't think he listens to the show. This is my time to make fun of him when he's not around. But I was teasing him because what you guys know me as for fishing, my brother is to hunting, huge hunter, and he obviously moved out to Utah. Big, he goes on like these weekend long hiking trips for like 20 miles. Big gym rat, the kids built. And he comes downstairs when we get back from fishing today. He goes, dude, I'm sore from sitting on the boat or standing on the boat today. And I'm like, hunting's easy, man.
He was sore. We were only out there for like
That's
15
what I said.
minutes.
That's what I said.
I was out there for like 4 hours before you guys even
Yeah. Those fishermen are athletes, man. Freaking athletes.
Most underrated athletic sport there is. Like, it's funny. I'll come home, like, segue here. Like, I was out there for 4 hours today. I burned 1,800 calories. I exercised for 30 minutes. I climbed 12 flights of stairs and walked 6 miles.
I think the Camus climbed 12 flights of stairs.
Well, it's just walking back and forth because I don't use a lean pole because I can't stand it. I fall over it. So I just take the absolute abuse and destroy myself for no reason when I'm fun fishing. But
well, we could talk about this forever. I think without further ado, let's get our guest on for today. Mr. Keith Carson. What's going on, man?
Hey, how are you? How are you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
Good, man. That was an interesting story about all the rough water you guys are enduring.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but that's just another day up here in Buffalo.
It's normal, but it's funny. Like, we got so used to their no wind. I think from like May 10th till about June 15th, we didn't have a lick of wind all but like one day. Like, I'm out on the lake, just like I could scoot around the lake at 70 and it would be just a sheet of glass, like literally.
Wow.
And now that it's July, it decides to, the wave forecast today was 1 foot or less, and there was 2 to 4 footers because it's like, it's going to blow 25 out of the west. None of the local weather stations saw it, but I have this one wind app that's like, it's going to blow 20. I'm like, this is great. It's going to blow today. And sure enough, it did. Like,
it's so funny though, when like folks like Keith, like the first time you probably went up to the Great Lakes and you saw like the wind, like on big water, what that's really like. I mean, you see it on Okeechobee too, obviously, but like when you see 2-3 footers, people are like, that's 2-3 footers is nothing until you see what really 2-3 footers means. Like, they look like freaking big waves.
Oh yeah. Well, Okeechobee, it gets choppy, but it's nothing like Lake Erie or any of the Great Lakes. And it's unreal to how big those waves get out there. And the biggest waves I think I've ever been in were about 7 to 8 feet out in the middle of Erie. Oh, yeah. And the wind was blowing 25, and I was like, I'm going out there. I'm never up here. And I did, and I don't think I caught anything.
Were you knuckling the whole time driving through that too?
Actually, I was, but as I got into it, I got the hang of it, and you can ride the troughs.
Yeah, you just had to 45 it and go nice and slow and keep that nose up, and you're good.
Yeah. And so it just took time to get around, but it really, it wasn't that bad. It was, I think like 4 to 6 foot is better than 2 to 3 foot.
I agree. You get bigger. They're more spaced out and they're more rolled.
Right.
But like if you get a sustained wind, so like down in like Sandusky and stuff, if you have a wind that's blowing west, like they get big, but they're like drawn out. Up here, we get so shallow so quick on a west wind that the waves go from like big spaced out to short choppy. So like right about 10 miles outside of Buffalo, go from like 80 foot of water, and then the average depth where I'm at in Buffalo is like 35.
Oh,
so
wow.
It just comes up, and then these waves all get real close together in 4 to 6 footers, and it's not fun.
No. Yeah, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't ever want to go through that again.
I don't think nobody likes that.
No.
Yeah. Dude, freaking congrats, man. BPT qualified.
Ooh. Yeah, thanks, man. I can't believe it. It's one of those things like, you hold your breath until it's all over because you just never know what's going to happen with fishing. And, it sure made it real interesting there at lacrosse. Yeah.
You were holding your breath for sure.
Oh, yeah. I had like figured something like I needed a top 108 in that last tournament to make top 8 in points. And day one, I was in 96th with 10 pounds, 12 ounces. And I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Sweating.
Sweating, yeah. And then, I picked it up a little bit day 2 and finished 72nd. Didn't cash a check, but the main goal was to stay in that top 8, get to be PT, and I made that goal. So that's all that really mattered.
Yeah, I mean, going to that last event, you're probably like top 108. Like, I'm Keith Carson in the Mississippi River. That should be easy. You're probably like, we got this in the bag. And then after day 1, you're like, shit.
Oh yeah.
Current's a different beast though. Like if you transition from like a big natural lake to current, they set up like they bite better, but they set up a lot differently, in my opinion. And
yeah,
I don't know if you can speak to that, Keith.
Yeah, they do. I mean, so they set up a lot differently in rivers, and I grew up fishing the St. Johns River here, and so typically, down here on the St. Johns, if you can find them on shell bars and stuff like that, those are decent quality fish and limit fillers. And the equivalent to that in La Crosse and the Mississippi River were the wing dams, and so almost everyone in the field seemed to be fishing wing dams, except for the few exception of kind of the guys in the top 10 weren't really fishing them, but those fish set up on that stuff, and you just kind of read the current, find where the current breaks are, or in the wing dam situation, if there was any little area, these wing dams are like 100 yards long from the bank that would go out to the channel. And if there's any little area where it was broken up, or maybe some rocks had fallen through, you were sure to get some bites there, and maybe even a ton of bites in some situations. But it's I don't know. I love river fishing. It's usually more of grind style type tournaments. You got to get one bite here and one bite there and one bite there, and just kind of read the current, read the water and the conditions as the day's going on. But it didn't go as hot for me in La Crosse, but that's okay. So looking forward to the next one anyway.
So when you're talking wing dams, is that is that an area on a river that typically reloads pretty well?
Yeah, the wing dams, they reload really well because there's schools of fish on them. And so typically, just for the Mississippi River, they have tons of wing dams there. Like as you were running down the river, I would see guys on every single wing dam as you're running down, and there's fish on all of them, and a lot of fish. And most of them were smaller fish, but some of the wing dams had bigger fish grouped on it. And I know some of the guys that caught 15 pounds or so on some of those wing dams, but they're just current breaks. It's a place for the fish to get behind the rocks that they put there, and they're current breaks, and they'll just hang out and wait for bait, to come down, and then they'll just ambush it.
So what was your difference in moving up day 2 of that event to get up to 72nd? Did you change anything, or was it a matter of just getting one bite that's just a little bit bigger than the rest?
So it's a little bit of both. So in practice, I had found some good fish up in pool 7, and it was shallow fishing, eelgrass, duckweed, frogging, flipping kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't get the fish to eat in the tournament. So I locked back through. On day 1, I locked back through at 2:00. My check-in was 3:45, and I had 2 fish in the live well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to put something together. And so whenever I'm struggling, and I don't know what to do, I just pick up a Fritz side 5. And so I lock back through, put the Fritz side in my hand, and I caught my limit in an hour. And I was like, okay. And it only weighed 10, 12. I was sitting in 96, but man, I caught my limit. I was thrilled. And so day 2, I locked back up again, just trying to get 1 or 2 big bites. Didn't happen. Day 2, I came back earlier. I locked back at 10 a.m. And then I put that Fritz side in my hand, and I ended up catching like 12, 9. And one of them was like a 3-6. I caught off a bridge on the Fritz side. And so, so that really helped move me up. But, that thing has saved me so many times. Like if you just don't know what to do, you just pick up the Fritz side and just throw it, and you'll surely almost always catch your limit.
Now, are we talking just the Fritz side 5, just the regular, or are we talking the biggin or the junior? Which one are we talking? 3 different ones.
You're right. You're right about that. I still throw the regular one. I just like it, the way it's balanced, the way it casts. It can be difficult to cast if you don't have the right rod. You need a 7.6 medium heavy, moderate action. John Cox has a rod just for that. Series. Yep,
which is really odd, by the way. Not to segue on us, but like it's really
never
odd.
A cranker, ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
Well, no, I mean, so neither was I. I was never a cranker. And, I cranked some, here and there. And then this Fritz side came out, and Cox was like, man, you got to try this thing. And he shows it to me, and he gave me 3 of them in a plastic sandwich baggie. And he's like, you got to throw these. And I look at them, and I didn't think much of it, to be honest. I mean, I thought, it looks good and this and that. But then I tied it on. And I threw it, and the amount of bites I got, I was like, holy cow, like this thing is the real deal. And since then, I mean, gosh, what was that, 3.5, 4 years ago? Since then, I've never put it down, and I've won an open on it. I've cashed a lot of checks. I've caught a lot of really good fish. I got 4th place on it in Wright Patman back in April, a couple months ago. They just eat the dang thing. It's awesome.
I'll back that up. And I'll back it up in regards to, and I won't say names, but there are some very, very big time prevalent anglers, especially whether they're watching live streams or their YouTube channels that are not with Berkeley and are with some pretty big brands. And you see a Fritz side sneaking in on their deck or they're throwing it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the thing catches them, man. It's freaking
I say there's
good.
2 baits that are like that for me personally that I see. It's the Stunna and then the Fritz side. And then Berkeley flatworm. So really 3, Berkeley flatworm.
Right. Yeah. I caught my biggest smallmouth ever on a Berkeley flatworm last year on Lake Erie. Yeah, up in Canada. Caught a 6'8".
It's a giant. Like, that's a big
yeah.
In the derb or was it in practice?
No, it was in practice. Funny thing too, I caught it in like 12 feet, and you know how sometimes you catch them, their gills start bleeding.
Yeah.
So I asked a local guy, and he's like, oh, it's because you brought it up from the bottom too quick. And I was like, man, it was only in 12 feet. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. He's like, Erie's different. So I don't know. Do you guys know about that? Or?
Yeah, I get a ton of fish that will bleed for no reason at all. And a lot of times, like, there's nothing you can do about it. You just throw them back in the live well, and they're usually fine. You just have to fizz them pretty quick. And I don't even think it's the gills, honestly. It's usually where the hook point hits them from the pressure from the deep water. And you'll just see it like pouring down out of their gills from the hook point. So you just got to get them back in the water, and it stops immediately.
That's what I did. I put it in the live well, and then I fizzed it, and it was fine. I swam away fine. Yeah, but that was pretty cool though, catching one that big.
It's a big fish. You don't see too many that big in the summer either.
And yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was there in August. It was, weird.
That's a big fish for August.
Yeah.
Up here where we're at, like if you start seeing a lot more 6-pounders start popping up around like middle of September, and then pretty much if you don't catch a 6-pounder in October, you're doing something wrong. So
wow,
it's
that good, huh?
It's
pretty much on lock. If you fish for a couple days, you will catch one over 6.
Yeah. Wow, I'm coming up.
And hundreds, it's fun.
Come through.
Yeah, it's fun.
I did write that down for you, Andy, but also for the folks watching or listening. When we have Steve Barden back on, we're trying to get him back on here in the coming weeks. We'll ask that question about the why smallies bleed.
Okay.
I'll make sure to report back to you, Keith.
Please do. Let me know. Yeah, I'm interested in that.
For sure.
Smallmouth. They're funky creatures, but gotta love them.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, buddy, dude, walk us through the season, man. I know. So you ended up ranked 4th, correct? Out of the Invitational Anglers. And dude, I think you. Let's see. Actually, let me fact check myself so I'm not spurring out numbers here. You won $90,000 this year on the Invitationals.
Yeah, not a bad year. I'll take it.
Not bad at all, buddy.
Yeah.
And walk us through the year leading up to Mississippi.
All right, you want the detailed version or the quick walkthrough?
Give us. You can walk through some of the ones that are more like self. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So all right. So first term of the year is Lake Okeechobee. Went down there and the water was pretty dirty. I couldn't really sight fish them the way I had wanted to or hoped to. So I ended up going over to the monkey box and just fishing. I was throwing Berkeley swim jig, and I think I got 33rd in that one. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. Wasn't bad. It was okay. And then next one, oh God, where was it? Clarks Hill, Georgia. And they were spawning for that one. Yeah.
That looked like a fun, not to cut you off, that looked like a really fun event.
Oh, that lake is unreal. So Clark's Hill, something I learned about it was, well, Hartwell's right above it, I think, or maybe two above it, but Hartwell's above it. And Clark's Hill is a totally different lake than Hartwell. Hartwell is like a herring lake. They chase shad. It's cane piles. It's things like that. Clark's Hill has bushes everywhere. You can flip. You can top water. You can throw wacky rig general, whatever. Tons of structure to cast at. And in my opinion, it's like a way better lake. I like it a lot. A lot of big ones there too. But yeah, so that one was all sight fishing. A lot of fun. Then we went to Eufaula, Oklahoma. I think I got 17th at Clark's Hill, and then Eufaula, Oklahoma. I think I finished 31st there. Sight fish day 1, and then flip trees and stuff day 2. And then Lake of the Ozarks. That was the one. That one I got second in. That one sucked because I only caught 4 fish day 1. That killed me. I had so many big ones on the bed that I was going from 5-pounder to 5-pounder to 4-pounder to 5-pounder. And then I was passing up keepers because I just thought I'm going to come in with 5.5s, try to have a strong day 1. Didn't happen. Yeah, I went to a 5-pounder, sat there for an hour, couldn't get it to bite. Went to another, sat in that for an hour. Went to a third one, finally caught it. I look at my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 10:36 in the morning. My check-in was like 2:15 or something, 2:30. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I scrambled, and I ended up with, I think I had 15 pounds with 4 fish. And yeah, and then day 2 I had 21, and day 3 I had 19. And all I had to do was like settle down. I just had too many fish to go to. Mm-hmm. So the thing about it was each fish took like anywhere from an hour to an hour, and sometimes 2 hours to catch. They were super hard to catch. Damn. And as soon as I understood that, the whole tournament turned around for me. So, I ended up getting second there. Cox won it. He was bed fishing on the other side of the lake. Yeah, I know. I was like, dang it. But no, it's fine. I'll have my chance again.
To put a pause on you real fast there, if you were to find yourself in the same situation again, where it's you have all of these bedfish and you find yourself not scrambling, but you see that you're in the same situation, how would you approach it if you could do it again? Great question.
Yeah, so if I could do it again, I mean, I would have stopped to catch a keeper at some point. And just, one of the things John tells me all the time when we talk about fishing, he's like, make sure you get 5. It doesn't matter if they're 5 tiny ones, if you're having a bad day and they're 5 small ones or whatever, make sure you get 5, because anytime you come in with less than what your limit is, you're just leaving weight out there, and I definitely could have had 5 that day. But part of the shallow water game that I play and that having that shallow water mindset is anytime I fish a tournament, I'm never concerned about catching 5. You'll know that there's a lot of tournament guys where they like to go out and they say, I want to get my limit and then I'm going to go hunt big ones. And it's fine to do that, but every minute that you're not fishing for big ones, you're not catching big ones. And in a 5-fish format, you want 5 big ones. And so a lot of times that big bite comes first thing in the morning, where I could have been off on a small fish hole trying to get my limit fillers, and I lost out a chance at a big bite. And so that's just the mindset that I have, that I attack tournaments with. And a lot of times too, you'll find that if you're just targeting big fish, you'll accidentally catch small ones in between the big bites. And then you'll accidentally fill your limit that route. And so that's another aspect of, targeting bigger fish. And so, just having that kind of mindset, it really hurt me. It worked out days 2 and 3, came back strong, but it definitely cost me the win there by just not stopping to catch a keeper somewhere. So
I'm trying to remember how much did you lose to John by?
1 pound, 1 ounce. I can't forget.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
You got to be sitting there in bed just thinking like, I saw a 2-pounder that was probably easy to catch right there. One flick at a general probably would have caught that 1.5 right there. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, I had so many
or that
too.
random cast underneath the boat dock that you're not looking at as you're going to the next 5-pounder.
I know it. I there's so many circumstances. I'm like, damn it, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah. So what after Ozarks was there one between that and Mississippi?
Yeah. Okay. So after Ozarks, we went to the Potomac, and I
Okay.
finished 8th place in the Potomac. Another solid tournament, and that one I had a tough practice. I was trying to learn the tides. Um, I'm familiar with tides. Growing up on the St. John's, it's tidal about an hour and a half north of me, up near Palatka, and I fished it, and I'm somewhat familiar with it. But Potomac's different. It's a different beast, and you can time the tides, and you can outrun the tides. And if you get good at it, you can really catch them. And I was trying to do that, and I had done it some, and it did work. But for the most part, I just kind of stayed put in one or two creeks and fished through the tides, and ended up catching. I don't know. I think I had about 15 a day or so, 16 one of the days, and finished up in 8th. So there was that one, and that was a fun tournament, man. Swim jig and flipping all the flipping the
Yeah.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, so not to go too deep into it, because I think from a tidal fishery standpoint, this could be an entire show or series of shows in itself. But for folks listening, when you're talking about timing the tides, when you have a high percentage area, what kind of tide do you want to be there when it's like, is it a high tide? Is it a low tide? Like, if you got a good area, what kind of tide do you want to be at to that
Well,
area?
so the way the Potomac fishes is you can catch fish at high tide and you can catch fish at low tide. And a lot of the dock talk was really interesting because for me, I could really only get bit at low tide or like the last hour of outgoing and the first hour of incoming. That was my best tide. But so anyways, the dock talk was funny. I get back and I talk to some guys and they're like, I can only get bit at high tide. They're like, I can't get a bite at low tide. And I'm like, man, I'm the opposite. I can't get a bite at high tide, but I can get bit at low tide. And so if you're able to figure out both tides of fish, those are those are the guys that can win the tournament because you're going to be in productive water the entire time. And so a lot of part of what that means is you're typically fishing totally different structure at high tide versus low tide. Low tide, you're going to be on the grass edges. You're going to figure out where do the fish funnel to at low tide and where do they pull up. And then you need to be there at the right time to intercept them because they're not there all the time. They're there at specific tides. So that's typically like funnel points and edges of grass and things like that. And then high tide, it could be anything from so let's say a brim bed. Like brim beds at low tide are almost unfishable. The bass can't even get up there to eat them. But at high tide, they've got water over their head, and the bass are thrashing them at high tide. So if you have a brim bed, you want to be there at high tide, and or mid tide or something. So I wasn't able to put it all together. I only had low tide, so for me it was nerve wracking because low tide was at 2 p.m. and with check-ins like three at 2:30 to 4 or whatever. So I would go all day with nothing. And I just kept telling myself, all right, stay calm. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I'm looking at my clock and I'm like, I got an hour and a half to check in, and I had 2 fish in the boat. And then suddenly it's like a light switch, and it's unreal how good the fishing is. In such a short period of time, I would catch 15, 16 pounds in like I mean like 20 minutes. And I didn't and I'm in the same area I'd been fishing through all the tides. And then it just flicks on. And I'm in the right place at the right time with the right bait and throwing a Berkeley swim jig, and you just load the boat. It's unreal.
So
It's
that is
so
a
much
place
fun.
that, like, if you didn't fish tides before and you went there and sucked, it'd be kind of like expected. People would be like, you have
Yeah.
to get better there with experience. Like, you have to go there multiple times to understand really what's going on. It's not really a place you
You,
go and show up like a Champlain or something like that where you could stumble upon something.
Right. 100%. It's a very hard place to stumble upon some. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not that hard to stumble upon something. It's hard to fish it in a tournament scenario at the right tide and be there exactly right. Because what happens is if you're off by 30 minutes, like I just said, like if you're off by 30 minutes, you don't get a bite. And then if you're there and your timing's right, it's some of the best fishing you can experience in such a short amount of time. And so I think a lot of guys found fish. Like that was a story that I heard a lot, and I like there's guys who would catch 17, 18 pounds one day and they were sitting in the top 10, and the next day they'd have 7 pounds and they'd fall hard, because their timing was off day two. And after leaving there, I really like the Potomac. It's very difficult. It's one of those fisheries that you have to be good to catch them there, and it's hard to stumble on them because the tides are changing every day, day after day. And so I left there wanting to go back for fun. Like I would like to go there for 7 or 10 days straight, all day through all the tides, and like really learn it. Because I think if I could do that, it'd set me up for like a solid, a solid future for Potomac.
For sure.
Anyway, yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. So if you had to take a look back on your season and the baits, say 3 baits, the top 3 that caught you the most money in 2023. And I know one of them's got to be the General, but beyond that,
Right.
what 3 baits do you think won you the most money this past year?
Definitely Fritz Sci 5, 100%. The Berkeley swim jig paired with the Maxent meaty chunk. I threw that at Okeechobee, Clarks Hill, Eufaula. I didn't use it at Ozarks. That was the General. And then Potomac. Yeah, I got 8th on it at Potomac. So yeah, that thing's huge. And then I like flipping the Creature Hog, Maxent Creature Hog. Great flipping bait. It's soft when they eat it. You just kind of pull and tighten your line, and the hook will just fall. Just sink right in their mouth and hooks them really good.
I love the Creature Hog, except for the fact sometimes when you just like pop it out of grass, it tears and it's ruined.
Yeah,
and it drives me insane. But it gets bit, so I can't complain about it.
I know. I'm with you too. Like I have a hard time flipping it with a 1 ounce. Because, typically, obviously if I have a 1 ounce, I'm going through like thick hyacinths, thick matted vegetation. And a lot of times it'll flip great for 20 or 30 minutes and then it'll start sliding down the hook. And it's so frustrating, but I keep doing it because it gets so many bites, So I'm like, man, you got to stick with it.
And it stinks how many you ruin before you get bit some days. And that $8.99 a pack, it gets a little expensive for the average fishing person. So.
Yeah. Well, what I do is I try to practice with a cheaper bait or something different, power bait or something, and then I'll just put the Creature Hog on for the tournament. And I like doing that for a couple of reasons. Well, one, because the Creature Hog, the Maxent gets the bites, but 2, you're presenting a bait to the fish that they didn't see in practice. In practice they saw something different because they do have memory. The fish, they memorize things that hook them and stuff. And so when you put a new bait on like that, they haven't seen it, and man, they eat it so good. It's unreal. Yeah, it really works.
Yeah, what is it? The is it Power Hog? There's like there's like a power bait version that's similar to the Creature Hog that Berkeley's got.
Yeah, I think it's Bunker Hog. Yeah.
Bunker Hog.
Yeah, and I like the Bunker Hog a lot. That's a really, really good flipping bait. And it's much firmer than the Creature Hog. So if that's something that bothers you, try the Bunker Hog. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite baits there. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you with the swim jig then. Are you like, I'm sure it's very versatile for you, but are you mostly straight reeling it, twitching it, like do the Alabama shake? Like how are you fishing that thing on majority cases?
Majority of the cases I'll be doing the Alabama shake, and I shake it and swim it. And sometimes I do straight retrieve. But that wouldn't be with the Maxent meaty chunk. I put a power swimmer on the back of it for a straight retrieve. Yeah, mostly I'm shaking it when I got that meaty chunk on. You keep your rod tip up and it's just pop, 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 pop. And you pop it, and the bites you get on that thing is unreal. It's so much fun.
Now, do you have an ideal weight for the swim jig that you like? Is it like a quarter, 3/8, half?
I like a half. So the half for me is better because I can sling it a little bit further and faster, but more importantly, my accuracy with casting is better because it's more weight. And so I can feel the pendulum swinging better. And with the way I fish, being a shallow water fisherman, you have to be precise with your casts. You can't miss. Most of the times you can't miss by a few inches in the places I'm trying to put it in. And that was true at the Potomac, like when the tide was dropping, I was around some lily pads and I would skip that thing way up under the pads because, the tops of the there's low tide. So they're sticking straight up. And some of those little holes to put it in were tiny, but I get the right. I caught like a 5.5. I made a cast. I put it in a hole that was like 3 inches around, and as soon as I clicked the reel over a 5.5, I ate it. I was like, oh my gosh,
Now, are you
Yeah.
throwing it on braid or fluorocarbon? Kind of what is your setup for the swim jig? I'm intrigued because I'm just now getting into like swim jig fishing, and it is kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. When they smoke that dang thing,
Dude.
I had a 2-pounder
yeah.
just about rip the rod out of my hand the other day, and I'm like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah. Oh, I hear you, man. So so the whole setup with that is I throw that on a 7.6 medium heavy Fantasista X, and then I pair that with a 7.3 to 1 gear ratio. That's the Xenon MGX, the silver reel. I use 40-pound braid, Berkeley X5. You put 40-pound braid on, and I like the 40. It's just a little bit lighter. Some guys prefer 50 or 65, and I try to go as light as I possibly can. I've thrown it on 30 and I've thrown it on 20, and both of those are great options also. But I prefer a medium heavy rod. A lot of swim jiggers, they like heavy. They want it stiff. And for me, that's not the case. When that thing swims, I want it to have a flow to it. And you get that flow, in my opinion, it's the perfect flow with a medium heavy. If you have a heavy, it's more of a pop, 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 pop. It's a quicker popping, and that works. It gets a lot of bites. But the swooshing flow it's something about it. They eat it, and it has more of a pause in the drag due to the medium heavy rod, and that allows the fish to have a better chance to eat it too. It hesitates for a split second longer than a heavy action rod, and that's a big key for me. But yeah, that's for the swim jig setup, and I'm gonna throw that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Andy, that was a little Do It Molds juice segment that you usually do on the Lure Lab.
Yeah,
that was pretty damn good. That was
it.
juicy.
Yep. Now I need a 7.6 to go throw swim jigs. I've been throwing on a 7.3 medium heavy, and I want like a parabolic rod, so it gives them that extra second to eat it, but enough backbone to really drive a hook home and get them out. Because you're throwing you're throwing it in open water, you're throwing it under trees, docks, the heaviest grass. Like I got one to eat it the other day where I literally pulled it up over like a milfoil clump, and he like came out and ate it. And I'm like, this is so fun.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I didn't even care that was a 1
Yeah.
pounder. It was the coolest bite. You had to have it.
That it's funny too. Like with me, I just fish the way that I love to fish. Like there's some trendy stuff that's hot, and guys are doing great with it, and I just don't love it. It's not all that for me. And so I fish how I love to fish, and I think that's the best way to fish. So I stick to my stuff. I stick to flipping, swim jigging, wacky rigging, top water. All the fun stuff. And I love top water because like the way that I swim jig, each bite really is like a top water bite. You see them. I'm not swimming that thing 2-3 feet down. I'm swimming at 2 inches underwater. And so it's just so exciting, and hopping it over logs and stuff like you're talking about. Yeah, it's awesome.
So the way you fish it, it's very visual. Like you can see that the majority of your bites, technically.
Yeah. Almost everything that I fish is visual. Almost everything. Sight fishing is my strength. Even if they're not spawning, I can still visually or visualize how a fish might be positioning on a piece of structure. And then because I've sight fished for so long throughout my life, I'm used to seeing fish eat my bait, and I know how they react. Like I know their behaviors and stuff. So I can visualize how a fish might be sitting on a piece of structure and then bring my bait right into its mouth. And it just helps. It helps them eat it better. So I'm foul hooking way less fish than someone else might that may not visualize a piece of structure the same way I do. You
can just say that you have X-ray vision. Like it's all good.
Yeah. I wish, man. I think about that all the time. I'm like, man, if I had X-ray vision, it'd be unreal.
Could you imagine?
Who knows? Yeah,
that's the live scope on steroids. Is what that is.
Right? Yeah, you would. Yeah, you wouldn't even need it. Yeah.
That's the next step. Is one of these brands are going to come out with a version of forward-facing sonar in their glasses. It's going to be like a collaboration between a sunglass company and a forward-facing sonar.
Gosh, dude, you know what's crazy is that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking like 10 to 12 years out for that technology.
I'd be surprised that I'd be saying like 3. I mean, you could probably
3. Yeah,
I'm sure there's
You
an
have to
infrared
remember,
tech.
we're talking about the fishing industry here, and everything is about 10 years behind. Like that technology, like
Andy, I'm gonna say this.
AI.
I'm gonna say this for the folks too. There are things that are available to specific groups of anglers that we do not know about that are available probably 5 years from now. I'm sure there's stuff Keith is thinking about right now that he knows about that he's like, you suckers have no idea. And like, so there's things available right now, dude. Maybe not available that are out
Yeah.
or made that we have no idea about that are, you know, a 2025 launch or 2027 that'll probably blow our minds. Like there's probably
yeah.
people laughing at this. They're like, yeah, we already got the shades. Like, you know,
Yeah.
these guys are using it right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, dude. There's no telling what's coming for the future, you know. And I wonder what do you guys feel about like how technology's advanced? Is it good for fishing or bad, or you know?
So, Andy, you go first. I'm curious
I
your
think
take
it's
on
good
this.
because it makes catching fish more accessible for people who may have struggled without, like,
Yeah,
because it simplifies the game of finding fish and catching fish. I
yeah.
think where we're going to see a negative impact in it, and I was reading a bill, I think I've told you about this like almost a year ago, Bailey, how the state of Connecticut is one of the states that is looking to change like angler creel limits based on forward facing technology.
Oh, okay.
So as I think we implement more technology into the game, these companies may have to find a seat at the table with local legislation and state legislation to come up with a common ground on what's too far,
Right,
because state agencies, depending on what their beliefs are and et cetera, and we're not going to go down the political rabbit hole here, but
right.
like
Yeah,
that's the one thing that I could see having a negative consequence to it, is that, oh, you know, this is too easy for a vast amount of people to go out and catch fish, that they're going to make it harder for organizations like Bass and MLF and MPFL and any of the smaller companies out there that want to have tournaments that come in and fish for a 5 fish creel limit weight. So you're going to see a lot of, I think the overall outcome is you're going to see a lot of changes in the future because state agencies are going to decide that no, you can no longer catch 5 bass. We're making it 3 all year because it's too easy to catch them.
right.
So I think that's
Eh,
something we'd have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, I was wondering about that's a good point you made there. I was thinking, you know how like with the Alabama rig, so when it
Mm-hmm.
first came out, you could throw it anywhere in the nation, and
Mm-hmm.
then now it's state regulated where some states allow 3 hooks, some states allow 5 hooks, some states don't allow more than 1 hook or 2 hooks,
Yeah.
you know,
Or
and then
don't
they have
allow it at all.
or don't allow it at all. Yeah, and so I was wondering if that could be something that could happen in the future where some states say no forward facing sonar in our state and another state might allow it, you know, and then I was thinking that would be interesting too, like and how that would affect the tournament trail. Like, if we go to a state that doesn't allow it, yeah,
Gotta
I
take
guess
her
everybody's
off.
got to take it
Yeah.
off, yeah, and then put it
Because
on for the
that's
next state.
that's
Yeah.
the only way you regulate it, right? If that was the
Hmm.
case, like you'd have state agencies that are out going around checking your trolling motor, like, hey, you got them. I mean, at this rate, you got to check their transoms too, because the guys are
Yeah.
picking them back there. You're like,
I know.
yeah, please look
I
your
know,
jack
it's
plate up, sir.
unreal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And the law always takes longer to catch up to the change, right? Then
Right.
it's never really ahead of the change. And now we're getting into like the peak. We're probably coming into the peak of forward facing technology before something else comes out that's better, right? I would
Hmm.
think, because it's been out 5-6 years now, all the way back to the original Panoptics. And now you're going to start seeing, usually around, like, in my opinion, that's 7 to 10 year mark is when you start seeing laws and effects and consequences and change happen, because it takes so long for modern law to catch up to what's happening, that I'm
Right.
afraid of what possibly could happen in the next couple of years. Because as anglers, and you probably even know it down in Florida, we have a very small voice compared to the homeowners on the lake, the state agencies, the people who are advocating for whatever rights that they want to advocate for, fish, cows, like
Yeah.
we're a very small minority in the group of people that live in these states who actually fish. So it's gonna be interesting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me too. I follow along and I watch it closely, and it seems as though spectators are mixed between it's a love hate type kind of thing. A lot of people love it, a lot of people hate it, but at the very least, it's interesting. And so I follow along and watch it.
I don't know. I could definitely see the limitation of you see guys now. We were just talking about in the other show, like guy running 5 forward-facing sonar transducers on his boat. I could see limiting that from a tournament standpoint, but I honestly don't ever see it being completely outlawed, like from a state regulation type of deal. I don't ever see it that way because I
just
think
see them limiting creel limits to where you can only catch so many fish on a daily basis.
I think that should be. I think that should have been done forward-facing sonar aside. I think with the boom that COVID happened, that should have been done then because of that.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's too many lakes right now that I think there's lakes. If we want to look at what Texas is doing, I think there's lakes where you have a regulation of like a lake that's struggling to get any size, but has a million pounders, like a let's call it like Table Rock. If you want some better size to it, like, hey, let's start keeping some of these fish. Like, you're too small or something like that, whatever in turn. But that's a whole other rabbit hole. But I think with how much we have learned about the fish itself because of forward-facing sonar, like from a behavioral standpoint, I don't know if it'll ever go away. Because now you see state agencies are using it for rescues. State agencies, from an environmental standpoint, are actually using it to study fish. They're actually finding their tracked, like the fish that they're tracking, they're finding them on forward-facing sonar.
Wow.
To understand what they're doing. And that's what's incredible to me, I think, is what we're learning. But I will say I love it for that. I will say I'll go out on a limb and say I love using it too in certain circumstances. Not even to target specific fish, but to make me more efficient from like a casting standpoint, where it's like 360 can show me, yes, there's a rock pile here. I can somewhat line up. Whereas like forward-facing sonar can show me, hey, here's that specific tiny hole in the grass. I can make as accurate of cast as possible.
And you can see it as the boat's moving too.
Exactly.
Stay on it,
Exactly.
I love the fact that it's real time, immediate. Like there might be a slight delay, but it's almost immediate. As soon as you pan it, you're like, okay, there it is. 40 feet out, and you can hit it dead on. Like, oh, I'm hitting that fish right on the nose, and then you get to watch it. And I'm like, this is fun.
It's like a video game.
I mean,
I've been using it
for sure. I think there's specific bait companies too that are benefiting from a R&D standpoint. Because back in the day, it was like they're looking at it at a test tank, or it was a version of if you got bit or not, where now they can actually see how the fish are reacting to the baits real time versus guessing. And now it's almost going to advance the advancements, if you will, the innovations of baits. So it's super intriguing from that standpoint. I think it's doing a lot for the sport. I just don't think we were prepared for how rapidly that technology would advance the sport.
Right. I'm shocked by how rapidly it did advance and just the way it's all unfolding. And I use it every time I go out. I'm trying to learn it. A lot of guys are winning tournaments. This thing's like making guys careers. And so I'm like, shoot. If there's a certain amount of guys that when forward sonar's not working, they just don't catch them. And so if it's that good where it can make someone's career, I better freaking learn how to use the dang thing. So I've been practicing, and I'm starting to get pretty good at it. So I might utilize it next year on the Bass Pro Tour, but who knows?
I would be very curious though, if like starting right now, or say right before next season, like before day one of the event next year, they're like, by the way, can't use forward-facing sonar; it's banned. Who would drop?
Oh my god!
You know what I mean?
God, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm with you.
Everyone's addicted to staring down. Everyone's addicted to doing this now, and I mean, one of my favorite things to do, and I'm sure this is with you, Keith, is turn off the graphs and get shallow and have fun, like in fish on instinct. And I feel like that's one of the ramifications and consequences of forward-facing sonar is that we're basically taking the instinct out of fishing, and you're just chasing fish.
And I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, it's tough because so like I used it on Lake Champlain last year, and
I love
and this is a crazy story, man. So I had a boulder up in like I don't know, maybe 35 to 28 feet. I had a big boulder and it had some big fish on it, and so I went there day 2 of the tournament. And there's like nothing on it, and I'm fishing it, and I'm doing circles around it, and I'm looking for fish like down in the crevices. I'm using
They're
forward
like
sonar.
15 feet off to the left of it, weren't they? Just hanging out there.
Well, so yeah, I think
just
so.
wait,
But
just wait.
I didn't see them. I think they were there the whole time. I never saw them. So I see a fish swim under the boulder. I flip my drop shot to it. It eats it. I set the hook, and suddenly it was like the whole bottom of the lake came up. There was, I don't know, 50, 100 smallmouth. They all came up to the boat, and I'm like, oh my God, like where do they come from? So I catch the fish real quick, throw them in the live well, run back up to the front. I can see the school, and I'm chasing them. And I chased them hundreds of yards out over 100 feet of water. And they just stopped, and they were suspended in 30 feet below the surface and 100 feet. And I didn't have, so typically with suspended fish like that, you want to throw like the right bait, some kind of jig head or something. I didn't have it tied on. So I sling my drop shot out there with the flatworm. And this is what really blows my mind is as soon as it hit the surface of the water, I mean, immediately they would start swimming up and they would meet it in 15 feet. And I had a 1/2 ounce drop shot. So this thing was racing down.
It's cooking.
It's cooking. They would meet it in 15 feet and I'd set the hook and every one of them was 4-pounders. I had 20 pounds that day. And so, I mean, these are fish, you know, that would, without forward sonar, I would have caught 1 4-pounder off the boulder and said, oh, they left. And I probably would have left, you know, and instead I ended up catching 20 pounds with it. And it just blew my mind. And I mean, of course, on that day, I absolutely loved it. You know,
wasn't it you were saying like Mark Rose or somebody pulled up and he was like, Keith, what are you doing?
You lost. You lost, son.
Yeah, I was, I mean, hundreds of yards from the shoal, and I'm over the channel, and he's like, Keith, he's like, what are you doing out here? I was like, Mark, I was like, I just found him on sonar. I'm chasing him out here, and he's like, oh wow, you know, he's telling me he was pretty impressed. So he stopped and fished the shoal. I don't know if he caught any, but yeah,
no, because they're all under your boat.
Yeah.
And that's one of the craziest things I've learned with forward facing and smallmouth in general is like on a slick, calm day, if you catch one of them, have you noticed this one yet? How all of a sudden you can look down underneath your trolling motor and they're just all sitting there and they won't do a dang thing.
No, yeah, they'll just sit there.
And then you move your boat and they'll follow your boat around.
Yeah. They'll stay. I think they like to just stay in the shade of the boat or something. You know, it's freaking crazy. But yeah, those ones are hard to catch. You know, yeah, you almost have to catch another one, and then they'll chase that fish as you're reeling it in and kind of reposition them, and then maybe you'll catch one after that. But
maybe,
yeah, those ones are tough ones.
They're like the dumbest, smartest fish in the world. Like,
yeah.
And then you'll have like that group of them that'll be on the bottom, like 15 of them, and you'll see one like rise up and like sit 10 feet below your boat, and that one will bite instantly. But like, like that's the small one. Give me the big one.
Oh, I know. It's so frustrating and so much fun at the same time. You know,
no doubt.
Love it. Hate it. Yeah.
Well, dude, so obviously that was quite the tangent we just went down.
It happens.
But talking about this past year, really just wanted to say congrats, man, because I know this is a goal you've been striving for a long time, and I'm excited to watch you fish the BPT next year. So again, congratulations.
Thanks.
But I do have some more fun questions here to wrap up.
Okay.
So tournaments aside, say tournaments. Just put it out of the picture. This will be my second question. But first question: tournaments aside, you want to go fun fishing. What you enjoy most? Where are you going? One lake, and how are you catching
them? You know, my favorite lake in the nation is Lake Champlain. So I'm going to Champlain. I'll be there in July, and I'm going to be drop shotting boulders, you know, shoals, anything out there, sandbars.
Really? He picks the drop shot.
Love it. Love the flatworm. No, I really do. It's something about it. You know, there's places that have bigger fish, and there's places that maybe some people would say are better fishing, but I grew up largemouth fishing. Caught a lot of big ones, and it's always exciting. But smallmouth is something I don't get to do that often. And in my opinion, Champlain's one of the most beautiful places, like visually, the mountains. Everything's pretty up north, but that place is just awesome. And so that's my place.
Yeah, so it's crazy where the fishing might not be as good as some other places, but as long as it looks freaking cool around you, it's cool how that brings the aspect into it. Where I just got back from the Adirondacks last weekend, where I went up with a buddy and we like slept in our trucks and like would hit a few different lakes. We went like I think 7 different lakes, and like when you're on a lake, there's no houses, no nothing, don't hear anything except the fish that's flopping at the surface that you just hooked into. Like there's something about that that's unreal. But so my second question on that, forget tournaments entirely. Say they ban tournament fishing. You have to say you could pick one other profession that you would enjoy, not like going back and painting type of deal. One, like whether it's NFL, whatever. If you could choose a different professional life for Keith Carson, what would you choose?
I'd be a pro golfer.
Golfer?
Yeah, for sure.
Same line, same way of thinking.
Yeah, no, I'd be a pro golfer for sure. Yeah. I started golfing a few years ago, and I'm starting to get pretty good at it. It's addicting. It's addicting.
Didn't you go on our off day for the trip this year?
Yeah, we went. Me and Justin and Cole. We went golfing that off day up in Oneida, and we rented these clubs, and they didn't have any wedges. The clubs stopped at a 9-iron. You had like a 6, 7, 8, and 9, and then we had a woman's driver and a putter that was smashed.
They shortchanged you. Wow.
Oh, it was so much fun though. We looked at these clubs and we're like, what are we gonna do? And we had a blast.
Smashing balls.
Smashing them. Yeah. We had a good time. But that's the only round of golf I played. When the tournament season ends, I actually join a golf league that's local here in DeBerry, Florida. And I play in golf tournaments in like November and December. And every year, so I start out and I'm like, I'll shoot like low 80s, and it's okay. And then by the end of 2 months after I practice and play, I'll be shooting in like mid 70s. I'll be really striking the ball. And I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. And then the tournament season starts up, and that's it. And then I'm done with golf. I won't hit a golf ball again until summertime. Yeah.
So if you had the choice, because you fish like NPFL with invitationals, like multiple trails at once. If you had the choice, if you could go pro golf and pro fishing at the same time, would you do it?
Oh yeah.
Dude, that'd be awesome.
Have you seen the payouts in pro golf?
Oh, it's unreal.
Yeah, it's like sponsored by Rolex, and this is what happens. Yeah, like last place is like $75,000, or I don't know. It's something, it changes, but it's a lot. Yeah, it's freaking crazy.
It is. We got a frozen Bailey here. That's a great screenshot. I don't know.
Yeah. Can we make that the thumbnail?
My back?
You're back. You're like this.
Oh, that's weird. I don't know. Sorry. I literally could see you guys real time saying, making fun of my face. So that was good. But my last question before I freeze again and freeze out of this thing is, if you could choose one sponsor, like big time sponsor that was like a non-endemic, like not fishing wise, what brand would you choose?
Non-endemic, not fishing,
can't choose golf either.
Yeah. I mean, you want some money behind, you want something behind you. I mean, I've actually thought about, UPS before. That's a Fortune 500 company.
Delivering packages while you're traveling for dervs.
Yeah, they sponsor some of the golf guys. I think they sponsor Louis Oosthuizen and stuff. But I mean, you want a big company behind you, a Fortune 500 type company or big money, Rolex, something like that. That would be awesome.
There's not like a fun brand that you want to just work with just for fun?
Oh gosh. I'm
putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question. It's something I've never even considered. Honestly, I could work with Sharon Williams. You know,
Sure.
the paint store.
Oh,
I actually
my
know a
God.
lot about paint. Yeah, I could actually talk about it. Yeah,
There we go. Well, when we need to do a paint podcast, we'll call you up.
call me up, man. I'll tell you how to use a sprayer and everything.
There we go.
It's good stuff.
Andy, you got anything else for Keith here?
No, I think that's a perfect ending. Sherwin-Williams.
Sherwin-Williams, baby. That better be the title of your rap next year.
Yeah, it's what is it? Paint the Earth. Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah, their motto. Yeah,
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well,
Cool.
buddy, again, congratulations on making BPT. Looking forward to watching you on that and cheering you on. And man, thank you as always for making time to coming on the show and educate not only Andy and I, but everybody that tunes in.
yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. It's always a great time being on your show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy. All right, we'll be talking to you. What's next for you?
So next one's at NPFL. It's you follow Oklahoma. It's a month away.
Oh, you're going
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I got a little downtime now, but yeah, looking
Golf
forward
time.
to.
Golf time.
Yeah, I might go hit some golf balls now. I'll see how bad I am at first. Yeah.
Heck yeah, buddy. But
Like
we'll
riding
be,
a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
All right, man. We'll appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys. Take care.
See you, Keith.
Bye.
Always good getting Mr. Keith Carson here on the show. What about you, Andy? If you could have some wild, non-endemic sponsor, like a brand, what would you choose?
Oh man, I would go like some type of food sponsor, like I don't know, like some
I
jelly
love this
brand.
food.
Like I love
Jelly?
like, peanut butter and jelly. Like, could you imagine like a
What is-
Smucker's, like a
I was
Smucker's
just gonna
coat? You just have it like wrapped
cool.
in like PV, like how they had like the, or what's the one like you can buy like the little circle ones. I have some of my
Yes,
friends
the
I
ones you
give
get at like you in school, like when you forgot your lunch.
Yeah.
That's what you'd get.
and have it wrapped in
For like
that,
$1.
like the purple and like white plaid wrap. Oh, it'd be so sweet.
Oh, dude, that'd be PB and J boat wrap. Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Come on now.
Like you're one step ahead of the game because everyone looks at your boat and they're like, okay, now I'm hungry.
Like I could go for a PB
Well,
and
I
J
think
right
they're
now.
called smackables. Is that what it is? Smackables?
I have no idea. Somebody in the comments tell us.
Hold on.
Dude, I might have to go. I have to go like a M&M just because the M&M
Uncrustables.
NASCAR looks so cool. Yeah, there we go. Someone's screaming at the.
Uncrustables. Yeah.
No.
So, oh yeah, Kyle Busch, the M&M NASCAR was at number 18, I think. That's a good one.
I hated NASCAR, but I always loved the M&M car just because it looked cool.
Yeah. Or the
That was
Burger
better.
King car from way back in the day. Like,
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yep, that was back in the day of traditional marketing when people thought it worked.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah, I don't
but
know.
that was a fun show. That was good to get
It
Keith
was.
down here. Yeah, it's gonna be cool to see him on the BPT. I'm trying to remember who all I know. Matt Steffen qualified for the BPT. Let's actually bring that up real fast.
Gray Buck qualified.
Gray Buck qualified. There's a few that trying to. I was gonna call it actually who was doing well here on the BPT on the Saginaw Bay. I was just gonna give a shout out. Greg Vinson leading that with 37 pounds, leading by 4 pounds. And good old KVD back up in second place. It'll be. I'm rooting
I
for
got
him.
it here if you're ready.
Oh, for who qualified?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got Ron Nelson, Michael Neal, who'd be a double qualifier.
All right.
Matt Steffen, Keith Carson, Martin Villa, Gray Buck, Nick Hatfield, and Marshall Robinson. Marty
Are we gonna
Robinson's
have
son.
two? Are we gonna have two Robinsons?
Yeah. Two
Another
Robinsons,
father-son
two
duo.
Jones. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty sick. Is that the only two that's in fishing right now? I know we have a bunch of brothers, but is that the only
Yeah, I do
father son?
believe so. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Heck yeah. Well, Andy, this weekend, as either folks are listening to this or watching this, if you're watching on a Friday, I'm heading up to my bachelor party. Or if it's in the weekend, don't reach out.
Yeah. I will have the social media all weekend when I'm free. Mine my wife's 6th anniversary as you're listening to this on Friday. If you're past that, our anniversary is past, but unfortunately I won't be there with you this weekend, but I have some
all good,
anniversary
buddy.
stuff. And the first docket on the list is installing a security system on my house tomorrow. So the honeydew list has already started. Yeah.
It has begun.
It has begun. So I think we're going to try to go on like a big hike somewhere with the kids. And yeah, we'll see. We had a babysitter.
Dude,
and then
can you please recreate the baby strapped to the front, Zach Galifianakis with the shades and everything?
Oh, I
Can you
probably
recreate
could.
that for us?
I probably
Please.
could, honestly. My hair isn't quite
Dude.
long enough now, but I probably could.
That's your Halloween costume, bro.
Zach Galifianakis.
Dude, that's your Halloween costume.
I'm coming to your
That's
wedding
awesome.
dressed as Zach. I'm fanny packing it.
I
I'm
would
coming,
die.
belly hanging out.
I would die. It would make my entire day if you did that.
Like, what was The Hangover? Like Zach Galifianakis from Hangover.
That's exactly it. People that are watching, listening know exactly what I'm talking about, and they can picture this.
Yeah, let me go. I think he had like a perm too, didn't he?
Yeah, he had like floofy hair, but he had the shades like the matadors that you wore today from Hobie. Like they could be perfect for that too. Because I think he was just aviators, but still.
Oh man,
that could be amazing.
Oh, you know who would fit this role perfectly?
You?
No, Corey Krozak, my buddy Corey. He looks, he could fit this role perfectly too. But I think I could pull this off.
I think you 100% could pull it off.
I got to grow my hair out and go just straight shag, but we could do it.
You should tell Amanda, and that way you'll get wife approval, because this would be the greatest picture ever if you could recreate this.
But man, it's like, what do you do? I'm like, I was dared to grow my hair out and beard and look like Zach Galifianakis for Bailey's wedding, and I got 3 months to get ready.
I just need to borrow Nora for a little bit.
Yeah. Just stuff a doll in the harness and just walk around.
No, Nora's perfect.
Nora. I know, but
you wouldn't be hurting her. She'd be like, my dad's the coolest.
Yeah, she probably would love it, honestly. She loves that baby carrier thing. But
so there you go. You're golden.
Yeah. Get all sweaty and gross.
Just do it for the picture, man. It's my one life ask of you. That's all I ask for.
Put the hands on the hips and like push the belly out.
I will print that out and put it on my wall. If you do that, we will print them off and we'll autograph them, and whoever we'll send them out to viewers and listeners. If you guys want one, get in the DMs or the comments and tell us if you get an Andy Zach Galifianakis recreation. If you would get that,
be hilarious. That's good.
Be incredible.
That is real good.
Oh man! All right, well, Andy, we could go on about The Hangover and how you look like Zach Galifianakis forever. But as always,
help.
It's what?
Matadors really help.
They do. They definitely make the job a lot easier. But buddy, always fun, and looking forward to next week's live. We'll see you guys on
Tuesday.
Yes, correct. I was going to check. I don't know.
The following week
Champlain
will be Monday, Tuesday.
Yes. The 14th will be fantasy fishing. So next week on Tuesday Night Live is Luke Palmer.
Ooh. Can't wait to talk about his smallmouth.
Yeah, how, bro? Yeah.
I'm not discrediting Luke Palmer here, but all I have to say is Lake St. Clair. I almost said Champlain because Champlain's an entirely different animal, but Lake St. Clair. Every year, somebody who isn't normally associated with smallmouth cracks them for 4 days and almost wins that dang tournament.
Always.
And that's nothing against Luke Palmer. It's just Lake St. Clair.
I'm just going to razz Luke because it's fun to razz Luke.
That's fair. He's probably going to be like, I don't know. I just kind of found them, and then we started catching them, and they were big.
You just go, listen. And then he's going to beat me up, and that's going to be
Yeah.
But, Andy, fun as always. Folks, appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.